Rachel Skarsten. Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm getting through. I'm just really excited to have television back. I'm ready to have Batwoman back on my screen. It has been far too long. How is it being back in Alice's shoes for you?
It's funny because normally you don't get such a big break in between a season.
Hmm.
Um, and so obviously because of the pandemic, we were off for a longer period of time. And I was a little worried actually that I had forgotten how to be Alice. um, because it had felt like so long ago when, since we'd last been one and the same. And so the first day back, I, I just getting ready and everything, and I wasn't sure. And then they yelled action, and it was like meeting an old friend, and like no time had passed. And so it's really wonderful. I really loved playing Alice last season, and I feel the same way about it this season. To be honest, I feel very lucky. I kind of feel like I have the best character on the show.
You do. And that's absolutely no shade to your cast members. It's just,
No. I know because they're all so brilliant, but I just love Alice. Like we had this game, I think it was at DC Fandom, and they were like, "If you could play any other character, who would you play?" And I was like, "No one." I love Alice.
well, so there's this weird thing that happens with Alice, at least for me. I can't help but smile every time she's on screen. And I mean, literally, like she could be shoving a knife into somebody, and I'm sitting there and I'm just grinning, and I'm like, this is a good time. This is great. I love this, which should maybe worry me on some levels, but like she's just such a delicious villain.
I know. Well, that's the thing. When I got the part, all my friends were like, I would explain Alice. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this part's perfect for you." And I was like, "Thanks, guys." And then I started to think about it. I'm like, she's a psychopathic murderer. Like, what does that say about me? But I feel the same way about Alice. She's just so delicious and so fun. And I think the good thing is that she's also not entirely evil. In fact, she always, I think, teeters on the line of good and bad. And because we're living in this like heightened comic book universe anyway, I think it'd be different if there weren't people like dressing up as a bat on our show. Maybe her murders would feel more like murders. But in that world, yeah, it really allows you to root for Alice. So I'm glad you did.
Well, so one thing I have to ask about before we get into anything else in the premiere, let's talk about Drunk Alice, because wow, that was something I did not know I needed in my life. But as soon as it happened, I was like, this is what my pandemic life needed, was Drunk Alice.
Yeah,
Tell me
Drunk
about
Alice is 2020.
yeah, she's peak 2020 for sure. But
Yeah.
answer me this: is she, when you're playing Drunk Alice, right? She's clearly unhinged, if you can call her hinged previously. I mean, she's, like you said, always kind of walking that line. But with everything that's happened to her, Kate's disappeared at this point, and she's just freaking out. Did you find more truth in Alice in that moment? Is she really kind of laying bare everything? I mean, she reveals this whole big plan for how she was going to murder Kate and have Commander Kane do it, which was so messed up. But then she's also, I mean, she's drunk, so she's a little bit nuts, more nuts than usual. So is it more unhinged? Is it more truth? Is it both? What did you find in those moments?
Well, I think that's one of the wonderful things about Alice is that she almost betrays herself so much of the time. I really think underneath Alice is just a wounded child, really. Um, and thankfully we got to see so much of why she became the way that she did. So I think the audience really understands that about her. Uh, and so, of course, when Alice is drunk, she's going to betray um, her actual feelings about everything. And while I think Alice convinced herself that she wanted to kill Kate, I don't think that she ever would have done that. I mean, Kate was the sun of her universe. So to me, it's just the denial, the anger, the different stages of what is actually grief for Alice.
Well, and then in her plan, she never was really the one that was going to kill her anyway. She was going to lead to it. She wanted Commander Kane to find the kryptonite. But again, like you said, she was never going to be the one to pull the trigger. And I think that's so just like important. I love the relationship. I love the dynamic there. Um, But when she is talking,
like, what was Alice going to do without Kate? Get a job?
we're going to find out this season.
Work at McDonald's? Like,
you know, I'd be interested to see what kind of toy Alice would put in a Happy Meal. If you're tossing a butterfly in with my McNuggets, I'm fine. Like, that's really okay with me. But again, that probably says more about me. So anyway, so one of the scenes I really love is when she is talking to Commander Kane. She reveals that, you know, Kate is Batwoman. There's so much anger there, and you can tell it's anger at him. So walk me through playing that scene with, you know, Dougray. Is it what are the emotions rising to the top for Alice there? Because she's clearly angry at him, but still sad that Kate is gone. So why is she choosing that moment to reveal?
I think she, you know, in her mind thinks she wants to hurt her father. And I think that she feels, you know, for her whole life, it's always been in her mind, Kate is up here and her father just cares about Kate and he doesn't care about her, and, you know, just kind of sweeps her over into the corner. And I think in a way there's this twisted justice to the fact that the daughter that he felt that he saw and felt that he knew, he actually knew less about than the one that he felt he didn't want anything to do with. And I think Alice feels that that's really like twisting the knife in his gut. But I also think that Alice wanted him to see both of them. You know, I think she wanted her family back the way that she remembered it, which was before the accident, when you know, they were all one family, and all of that is now crumbling around her. And ultimately, I think a lot of the things that Alice does is just to also get her father's attention. And Alice is like the classic child who can't get the positive attention, so she tries to get the negative attention. But I love doing scenes with Dougray, because honestly, in real life, he's kind of like my dad. So, you know, he's always taking care of me. He like will make big stews and then like freeze them for me. Last year, I'm pretty sure he fed me for like the entirety of the season. And he's also just such a brilliant actor. So, I love doing scenes with him, but it's also really hard to hurt him. And it seems like I'm really like kind of hurting him in the scene. So, anyway, I hope that translates.
I mean, if it seems like you're really hurting him, it means you're doing your job. It's fascinating.
Well, either that or he's doing his job.
It's just so fun because talking to you now, you're clearly not Alice, no matter what your friends say. You're not Alice, but on screen, Alice is just, she jumps out. She's truly one of my favorite TV villains right now, and that is not me sucking up. She's just so compelling because, like you said, she is that hurt child, and you see it every second. Every part of you is like, she's acting out. I feel bad for her. This isn't really her fault. So it's an interesting dichotomy to kind of work with.
My cat just needs to go outside. I closed the door because it's a little noisy, but now he's meowing at the door. His litter box is outside.
Okay. He's saying, Mom, I want to be part of this too. Stop ignoring me. I get it. My dog does the same thing. Okay, so in season 2, obviously, we are going to meet Sapphire, which is so exciting. I'm really curious how this is going to go, though, because Alice you're bringing the war to her. She, at the end of the episode, says to Mouse, which we need to discuss in just a minute here, but she says a war is coming to Gotham. And, you know, I mean, Sapphire has owned up to it. She says, now we're even. One, I would like to know, even for what? What did you do to piss her off that bad?
Well, you're going to actually find out what I did. And it has to do with matters of the heart and love. And that's all I can say. But it actually, I'm so excited. I mean, it was always in the cards to take Alice to Coriana. It was always in the cards from season 1 to explore that relationship with Sapphire. But what has changed this season was last season, Alice was so afraid of Sapphire. And this season, I think she still is a little bit, but now she's really, you know, a woman on a mission. So, however, when she gets there, and once we delve into the backstory of that, it's really sort of a different side that we've never seen to Alice. Once again, to do with love. So I'm really excited for people to see that.
Now, I had heard that because your showrunner, Caroline Dries, has said that with Alice's story arc this season. Let me find the exact word. She said intrigue, love, betrayal, jealousy, and murder. Murder, yes.
Murder, we knew. Yeah.
We knew that was coming. Betrayal, again, you can kind of see it coming. But this love thing, because I'm never one that's like, we need a love interest. At all times, I'm like, a woman can thrive on her own. We don't need a love interest. But if Alice is getting one, I want to know if you're in love with Sapphire. I want to know if you killed her love. I want to know.
Yeah. Well, Alice, like, let's be real. Alice, she can absolutely survive on her own. But you know why I really loved it was because I felt last year, albeit platonic, and of course they were siblings, but in a way, Kate was really her love story. And with the disappearance of Kate, she sort of loses that love story. But the writer so brilliantly sort of gave Alice another love story. And it is also someone who is very part of kind of the fabric of what made Alice who she is. And yeah, there might even be a triangle involved there. Who knows?
You've got my full attention. I promise you that. What would Alice's ideal date night look like?
Alice's ideal date night. I feel like it would include some type of junk food, maybe like pizza or fries, or maybe I'm just talking about myself. I mean, you wouldn't have to take Alice to like a nice place. Like Alice loves sewers, so that's, you know, she likes that kind of vibe. Maybe like a abandoned warehouse, just the two of you, couple dead bodies.
Great.
You'd have to romance her, but in a specific way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alice doesn't want your flowers.
Of course not. I figure the waiter is dead by the end of the meal, right? Like that's the waiter together.
Totally.
So you mentioned that she was scared of Sapphire and now she's not. Is this a little bit of a coping mechanism for Alice? Because she, like you said, a woman on a mission. Is she coming to Sapphire out of like grief for Kate, out of pettiness because Alice's plan was foiled? And does she blame her now maybe a little bit for Mouse's, demise because you killed Mouse because you had this whole plan with Kate? So now this plan is foiled. Kate's gone. Mouse is gone because of it. Is there any kind of anger at Sapphire in that sense?
I think Alice holds Sapphire accountable for Kate's death.
Disappearance.
Yes, but in her mind,
okay.
Well, I suppose in her mind, it oscillates. She's not, first she thinks she's just disappeared, and then she thinks she's dead, and then so it kind of goes all over the place. As I think many of the characters on the show, just because they're not sure. But I think she holds her accountable. And then, I think that makes her very angry. But, at the end of the day, Alice isn't really angry at any of the objects of her anger. She's not really angry at that. She's angry because of what happened to her. And that can never be undone. So Alice just ends up going around chasing her tail. So last year it was Kate and her father. This year now it's Sapphire and some other characters. But I do think that every season, every episode, there's more and more uncovering of that, more and more healing for Alice, whether she notices it or not.
Well, so I've spoken to Caroline in the past, and she compared Alice to the metaphor of a shark, and if it stops swimming, it dies. And we're not sure if that's actually a real thing, but that's kind of how Alice is. If she stops and she really thinks about everything that's happened to her, she would just, I believe Caroline said, collapse in agony, which I fully believe.
Well, absolutely. And I think she's had many opportunities to get out of the game, to stop. I think Mouse offered her that. And she just couldn't do that. She just can't let go of that anger.
Are we ever going to see a point where she can? Is she ever going to really confront her emotion? Can we send her to therapy real quick? Would that work for her?
I think that this season we do see Alice let go of that anger. However, it may or may not be in the present.
Oh. You say things that I know you can't say more about. And
I want to keep my job.
I understand, and everybody I can promise you wants you to keep your job. Because so to pivot from that, mentioning other characters, obviously we have to talk about the new Batwoman, Javicia Leslie as Ryan Wilder. She's amazing. So excited to see where it goes. Is she, though, at this point, because we know that she has this connection to Alice, which I think the writers worked in brilliantly, didn't see it coming. It works. It flows. Is she even a blip on Alice's radar, though? Because technically you don't know who the new Batwoman is yet, if you eventually find out. But is this an incident, like, this drives Ryan Wilder? Is this an incident that even registers in Alice's memory?
Yeah, I actually think it's really interesting that you said that, because that's pretty much exactly what it is. I think in the beginning, she's maybe slightly amusing to Alice, but I don't think Alice really cares about her. I think that will change over the course of the season, but I actually think it was really wise of the writers, because, you know, audiences aren't stupid. The only thing Alice cared about last season was Kate. And so you can't just come in this season and say like, oh, well, now you just magically care about this new Batwoman. But I was happy that they still tied us together in some way, and so that there's a vendetta on one side of it. Of course, when you have two strong, powerful female characters with opposing agendas, they're going to crash into one another, and Alice does not like to have anything crash into her or stand in her way. So, you know, she will definitely go from not caring about Ryan and Batwoman to I think having investment in it for sure. But I actually appreciated in the beginning that they didn't try and force some feeling on Alex, that's my husband, Alice's end. They're making her earn it, which is great.
I'm really going to be interested to see how it goes, because Ryan is out for blood. I mean, first episode out the gate, she's like, you can't have your suit back. I'm going after Alice. And that's not a small target. It's not like she's going after a small fish here. She's like, I'm just going to go and get Gotham's like biggest bad right now. Give me a minute and I'll give you your suit back. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it will. It will. It's fun to do.
So speaking to Caroline in the past, I asked her this, and I will pose it to you now. Do you believe there is still good in Alice? Because I asked Caroline that she killed Mouse. This is the last tether to her past. It was her real anchor to her humanity there, and he is gone. And she said no. She said it's not totally snuffed out. It's just buried very, very deeply underneath all this anger and rage and psychosis.
Psychosis, yeah.
There's a word there that works. Do you believe that there's still good in Beth? I know you said that she lets go of it. Is it enough to get to, you know, the Beth that we knew? I think I called her Beth intentionally. That's how that's intertwined in my brain.
Yeah. I don't think Alice will ever be the Beth that she was before. I don't think we can ever go back entirely to the people that we were before, because we've had new experiences and you know, are in different situations. But I think the good that was Beth absolutely still exists in Alice, and it's very much the approach I've taken in playing Alice, because I think the most brilliant villains are in fact the ones that you root for, because there's the possibility of redemption, and because you see, you know, your own failings, or, you know, your own sort of evil reflected in them in some way, and you root for yourself. And so yeah, I know for me, the villains that I've loved the most have been that way. And I really wanted Alice to be that way. And in fact, I think the moment that she doesn't have any good left in her is probably when I'll be done playing Alice.
Good to know. Okay. Now I have a hypothetical for you at this point. I have talked to Nicole Kang in the past, and sweet, sweet girl. Maybe it's just me, and maybe it's just my hopeful for another good villain. I see a darkness in Mary. I really believe that it's there, and I bear with me because you killed her mom and made her die in her arms, so that's gonna kind of mess her up a little bit.
Sure.
And I think you really kind of see it in these first couple episodes of, season 2 of Batwoman. There's this darkness in Mary. She's all about like, well, why is everyone expecting me to just be okay about it at this point? So if it were to happen, because I kind of hope it does, everyone wants to see Mary suit up as a hero. I would love to see her suit up as a villain. What is the idea of Alice and Mary teaming up? Like, how does that feel in your brain? How does that feel?
I would love to team up with Nicole. One, because she just, probably more than anyone else on the show, like I always say, Alice, the energy that it takes, like the energy output for Alice in every scene is very high. But Mary she kind of goes on that same frequency. Like she has so much energy, and Nicole brings so much energy and joy to everything. Like I love watching Nicole. I remember the first time I met Nicole and I was like, you are perfect for Mary. Like, this is so good. I can't wait to see what you do. And I love playing off of her because she can kind of, I think Alice typically tends to be the biggest personality in any room. And like, say for instance, when she's with Sophie is like so straight and narrow, and Alice enjoys that. She enjoys kind of being big and throwing someone off their kilter. But Mary has a big personality too. And I think in some ways, almost like steal some of Alice's limelight, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like it would be really interesting to have them both as villains and like kind of in cahoots, but like also kind of like competitive sisters, because, Mary is my sister. And yeah, I would just love to explore more with Mary and Alice. I feel like we so rarely get scenes together, and I always really love doing them with Nicole.
I hope for more. That's just like my secret Batwoman hope, is that eventually you become like these twisted sisters and just kind of go terrorizing through Gotham. Maybe something not to hope for, but I think it would be really fun to watch.